Kent Hughes was interviewed recently, and he revealed some secrets about Montreal's plans moving forward, one of those being a potential transaction maybe in the works. I'll be talking about some guys that could get moved, such as Jake Allen, Sean Monahan, and Joel Edmundson, plus who Kent Hughes likes within our prospect pool. You won't want to miss anything I have to say on this edition of Habs Digest. Hello, bonjour, ahoy, and welcome to today's news edition of Habs Digest. I'm your host, Josh Gosse, and real quick before we get into the video, I know I remind you guys all the time, but 73% of you who are watching our daily Habs content are not subscribed. If you find yourself watching the videos and you haven't hit that subscribe button, hit it. What do you have to lose? We have daily content. You'll be notified every day when we post. You won't want to miss anything we have to say here. First topic today, as we were talking about, Kent Hughes maybe has a transaction in the works. And one guy that I haven't seen a lot of people talking about as a potential trade asset for another team is Jake Allen. Now, let me bring up the tweet here. So this is from Anthony Maltino, who interviewed Kent Hughes, I believe, at a Northeastern hockey game for the NCAA. And he asked Hughes a few questions. And in summary, I'm going to just read this and translate it to English as I go. Kent Hughes wants to add a third first-round choice to his bank of picks for the next draft. And he said he's been spending a lot of time on the phone within the last week, and maybe that means a potential transaction. And I want to get into what could be a transaction for Jake Allen. Now, that seems kind of shocking to a lot of you. I know Jake Allen just recently signed a 2-year extension to stay with Montreal, but as we all know, his performance as of late has really not been amazing, with the emergence of Samuel Montembeault as a sort of a star for Montreal this year. I don't know if it's sustainable, but Montembeault's numbers have been great this year, much better than Jake Allen's. I'll just actually bring up Jake Allen's stats for you in the last 3 seasons with Montreal. As you can see in his first season, .907 save percentage, 2.68 GAA. Last season, in our tanking year, he still managed over a .900 save percentage with a 3.3 GAA. That's respectable as our number one goalie for most of the year when he wasn't hurt. And this season, in 13 games, he's 6-7 with an .891 save percentage and a 3.61 GAA. So as we can see, Allen's stats this season have not been outstanding, especially after his stellar start to the season. He's had a few stinker games in there. I mean, there could be a million excuses as to why. We've discussed that a few times on the channel already, so maybe watch yesterday's video or our most recent Jake Allen game recap where we get a bit more into it. But Allen does not look great. Let's just be real. He's not looked amazing in recent games. Yes, he saved the team some games this season, but we're starting to get a little worried, especially since after this year, he still has 2 more years. This is the last year of the first contract he had with Montreal, and he's signed for next year and the year after at $3.85 million apiece, and he's on the hook for, I think, $2.875 million this season. But could he be traded? I mean, with the emergence of Samuel Montembeault, you gotta wonder, right? I mean, me and Jesse have been discussing whether or not we think Montembeault is ready to be thrust into that number 1 goalie spot for Montreal. We're not sure. I mean, he's still progressing at a very good rate. He has looked phenomenal this season. He looks faster. He looks more confident in net. So, and Jake Allen, in the next few years, Montreal is going to start to need to pay some of their players. Cole Caulfield's contract is coming up very fast. We have a lot of young guys in the next 2 or 3 years that are going to need long contract extensions. And this Jake Allen contract in the next 2 years is going to be about $4 million per. And right now he looks like low-tier starter, maybe high-tier backup in the NHL. And do we really want to lock $4 million up into him? And I mean, if we ship him out, the question is then who becomes our backup? And I guess that has to be Cayden Primeau, right? Cayden Primeau, we've seen him up with Montreal since 2019. In his first 2 games with Montreal, he looked great. But, I mean, last season when he came up on this tanking team, he really looked out of place. Look at that, an .868 save percentage with a 4.62 goals against average in 12 games. Even this season in Laval, I know Laval's not been great. Their defense hasn't been amazing, but he's got a sub-900 save percentage with above a 3.5 GAA. So if we move Allen, would we maybe want to get some kind of young goalie in return? Or maybe just some backup on another team to back up Montembeault? We trade our higher tier backup in Allen for maybe a low tier one on another team? I'm not really sure. And the question is now, who might take Jake Allen? Because not only do you need to move the player, you need to move the contract. And he's on the hook for almost $3 million this year and almost $4 million the next 2. So whatever team takes him needs to have some cap space unless Montreal retains a lot of that salary or they get some salary back in maybe a contract dump, such as what Calgary did with Sean Monahan this offseason, even though that's looking great, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, I'm just wondering, like, is there any world where Jake Allen gets moved? Now, my immediate reaction is no. I don't think it's going to be easy enough to find a trade partner to take on Jake Allen. But, at what point does Montreal say, okay, we have Jake Allen on the hook. He's owed about $10 million total over the next 3 seasons, and he is performing at maybe like a high-tier backup level for us. We have young guys. We want to win some games right now. We're not trying to lose. We want the young guys to build confidence, and we need a little bit of cap flexibility in the future because Montreal, despite not being an amazing team on paper, we have a lot of money tied up into our contracts, such as Mike Hoffman. This season, Evgeny Dadonov, he'll be off. Same thing with Sean Monahan. But Josh Anderson long-term, Brendan Gallagher at over $6 million. So there's a lot of money tied up into this team. Is it worth trying to ship off Jake Allen, even if we retain some of that contract money, just to get maybe some okay draft compensation? Are we really getting to the point where maybe trading Jake Allen for a salary cap dump is worth it? I don't think it is yet. I don't think we're far enough into this season to really see whether that should be a possibility that Kent Hughes is exploring, but I wanted to bring up the topic and see what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below because I think it's an interesting topic to discuss, especially with the emergence of Samuel Montembeault, and I really want to hear what you guys have to think or have to say about that. So topic number 2 today. You know, we're still on the topic of wanting to make a trade, right? Wanting to make a move. And Kent Hughes also said he wants to get a first-round pick. So could Monahan or Edmundson soon be traded away? I'm sure you guys have seen some videos around YouTube. I've seen them around YouTube as well, or maybe other forums that you visit online talking about how Monahan and Edmundson could be good trade bait pieces to a contender. And I'll pop up some of their stats here. Let's take a quick look at Monahan first. If we take a look at Sean Monahan's stats, he has 14 points in 20 games this season. He is our top face-off guy at about, I think, 54% on the dot. He has 48 shots. He's averaging over 17 minutes time on ice. He has been a key piece for this Montreal offense. His puck control in the offensive zone is great. He's been sort of our go-to face-off guy. He's on the power play. He's been doing a lot right for Montreal, especially for getting him for free, him and a first-round pick from Calgary. Yes, his contract is a bit much, but I think he could be a number 1 target for a team that needs a face-off specialist and a guy who clearly can still put up points at a decent rate. I mean, he's on pace for what, like in the 50s, maybe 60 points this season? Maybe not sustainable, but if he's on that pace already for Montreal, you know teams will be knocking for him. And let's look at Joel Edmundson, too. I mean, Joel Edmundson has not played a ton this season. He's only played 11 games, only has 2 points. That 1 goal coming in our last game, a beautiful tip. But he has 20 shots, 13 hits, and the one thing I wanted to highlight is the 39 blocked shots from Joel Edmundson. Sure, if you're a Habs fan, you've been watching the games, you know that Joel Edmundson has not been at his best, not quite the level we saw him in the past few seasons. He's coming off an injury, and maybe, you know, the state of the team is not great for him. Who knows what reason he has for not playing that well, but at least he's there on defense. His blocked shots are incredible, 39 blocked shots in 11 games. If you just extrapolate that to 20 games, which is, let's say, about average. That's about how much Monahan has played. It's a little less than what I think Montreal's played, 22 games this season? Let's say Edmundson had played 20 games. That will put him second in the league in blocked shots if he was to keep that pace up, behind only Alec Martinez. And actually, currently, David Savard is second in the league with 65 blocked shots, and Joel Edmundson is averaging more blocks per game than him. So he's been there defensively. He's a big defenseman, I believe, 6'4", 6'5". He's a huge guy. He's a leader on the team, leader in the locker room. A lot of the guys look up to him, respect him, and you know that a playoff team, playoff contender, wants his physicality, his leadership in that locker room as they go towards a Stanley Cup push. So Monahan and Edmundson are 2 guys that really have a lot of value for maybe a playoff team come the trade deadline or something like that. And Kent Hughes has said that he has been making phone calls, trying to find another first-round pick, maybe trying to do a transaction. And of all these players I mentioned so far, I actually think Joel Edmundson's the number 1 guy that could be shipped out. Now, I don't know necessarily exactly how important his presence in the locker room is for Kent Hughes, Martin St. Louis, Jeff Gorton, whatever. I'm sure it's incredibly important. But let's be real, Montreal has a lot of great defensive prospects. We're going to get into a couple in the next thing here. But we have Jordan Harris, Arber, Xhekaj, Cayden, Guhle, all left-handed defensemen, not to mention Mike Matheson, who's there as well. Not a young guy, but a veteran that sure seems to be a staple right now, especially with his contract. So we need to make some more room. Edmundson, like, we have 5-6 capable left-handed D-men, and we need to make some room. And Joel Edmundson could be a great trade piece to another contending team that can maybe ship us back a first-round pick. And the final topic today, I want to get into a little thing that Kent Hughes revealed. He reveals maybe his favorite prospects. Now, I only showed you part of the tweet earlier. I got a little extra part of the tweet, so I showed you guys this part of the tweet. But let me just show you the last part of the tweet. Kent Hughes said that Owen Beck, Filip Mesar, Sean Farrell, Lane Hutson, Jayden Struble, Luke Tuch, and Adam Engstrom are the coup de coeur. And if you're not familiar with that expression, I believe coup de coeur essentially just means guys he's in love with. They hit you in the heart, right? He loves these prospects. And I thought it was a very interesting list, and we'll bring it back up here for a second. Sure, we know Owen Beck's been insanely good. Filip Mesar looks great. Sean Farrell is really performing well in the NCAA. We talk about Lane Hutson all the time, but Struble, Tuch, and Engstrom are very interesting, especially Luke Tuch. Now, Luke Tuch has had a solid season so far. He's about, I think it's 8 points in 11 games in the NCAA as a forward. He looks all right. I don't think he really projects to be an NHL guy, but sort of piggybacking off of the last thing I mentioned, if you look at that list, Jayden Struble and Engstrom are both left-handed defensemen. I don't know what Kent Hughes has for lefty D-men on Montreal, but he sure loves to collect them. But he seems really confident that Struble and Engstrom could be part of Montreal's future. Not to mention the guys we already have on the roster in Guhle, Harris, and Xhekaj, but also someone like maybe Mattias Norlinder, who is in the AHL, and Barron. I know, like, they're not all left-handed D-men, they're in the AHL, but Justin Barron and Mattias Norlinder are still guys that are in our prospect system that might have a chance to crack the Habs roster. We have so many young defensemen, and these are two more that Kent Hughes just doesn't seem willing to part with. We have a bunch of prospects, but these are the ones that Kent Hughes hand-picked, said, these are the guys that I love, these are the guys I want to keep, and you gotta wonder, maybe he won't ever trade them no matter what kind of offers he gets. He truly believes in them, and I believe in Kent Hughes. I think he's been doing amazing things so far for Montreal, so I trust him with every word he says, really. So I'm looking forward to the trades in the future, maybe getting another first-round pick for Monahan, or maybe even Edmundson, and looking forward to these prospects that Kent Hughes really seems to trust. But that'll do it for this news edition of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed the video, leave it a like, subscribe to the channel. We're going for 5,000 subs. We know you guys can help us out with that. I've been your host, Josh Gosse. We'll catch you in the next video.